morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and I gotta be honest with you guys. I know that we've been a little bit on the quiet side. We've been doing a lot of live content streaming, so if you guys haven't already seen it, we've been busy. There's a lot of stuff that's going on our side. But nevertheless, if you guys haven't already checked out some of our streams and whatnot, you can definitely tune in either on the YouTube or on the Twitch channel. We're normally live around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want to jump in and be a part of the fun and activities we got going on, you're more than welcome to. But with that being said, no excuse. I wanted to take an opportunity to do some videos. And in particular, we had some new champions that have come out. And I've had a chance to kind of explore some fun interactivity with, like, Scratch, for example, watching his video live on stream. And he even kind of gave his little 2 pennies about it, about like how the experience has been with some of the new ones that are coming out. But we didn't get a chance to really talk about 2 new ones that have kind of slipped through, which is going to be Matriarch Zarguna as well as Aragaz Wild King, I think is how you say his name. Really, really cool design, by the way. They are also a part of the Prism event, so it's going to be pretty cool to kind of see. I'm going to do a breakdown on this entire Prism event that's going to be active right now and just give you guys my 2 pennies, as well as we'll go ahead and explore if these champions are worth going for or not, and then we'll kind of go from there, all right? So let's break down the Prism event itself. Right now, there's about 5 in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with the headliner champion being the Unity champion here in particular. Very small pool, very easy to acquire a specific set of legendaries if you're looking for them in the Orc tribe. In addition to that, they also have like about, what is that, 4, 8, 12 epics, and some of them are pretty decent, some of them are kind of eh. And it's kind of interesting because some of the more desirable ones would actually be a lot more enticing to get, but nevertheless, let's break it down. So we got Torture Helm. I think pretty much the biggest value I've ever seen out of him, I've never really built him myself, would be Fusion for the Rosin Fusion if you want to get that done, whether that's for the missions or if you just want one yourself. You can technically get him that way. Zergala, on the other hand, though, is a phenomenal epic champion. She's been really, really good in, like, Sin City particularly, but I also used her in, like, Faction Wars when I was first coming up as well, and she did the job pretty well, too. Coming with an A1 weaken and an AoE decreased defense, and then if you kill somebody with her A2, it'll do the A3 for free, which is kind of nice. It's a little extra, little bit of damage. She actually hits, too, especially with Empowerment now on the board. If you want to maybe get some +1s, 2s, 3s, or 4s, she's a good one. She's a good one. I'll give her the nod. Now, also same with her, Duck the Pierce is a decreased defense and decreased attack champion with the ability to provoke, giving himself unkillable and reflect. This is good for a lot of different areas. You could think like maybe as a starting provoker for Hydra, as well as being like a technical mischief tank that also gives like decreased defense and decreased attack on the team. Not bad. That could be a good starting option for like a provoke option / debuff for a team. Nevertheless, I think there are better options out there, but, you know, pretty solid. And I won't lie, I didn't use him during my Faction Wars progression, but I'm pretty sure he also has a special place in Sin City where you can get some value out of the provoke and the decreased defense and attack. So definitely a solid champion there. Maruka, I don't really see too crazily. I know she has a revive on death, but that's about it, roughly, that I've seen in terms of interest. She does have a single target heal cleanse for one particular champion, but nothing to write home about too much. Olherma Yorick, I did use during my progression. Increased attack kind of lined up really well with boosting up and preparing the Seer Pop, for lack of better words, which just includes and incorporates the buff count that you have, as well as like a revive that has Terminator Fill with a perfect veil that's get placed on him, and he has an A1 that has like a 40% chance to place a burn. Not a bad champion at all. I liked him as a reviver, but to be honest with you, he's probably more superseded by this one in particular. This is one of my favorite support epics in the game, let alone being in the Orc faction. It's Takeover. Takeover has a A1 that puts the increased defense on the lowest HP target, making them a little bit more resilient, as well as a increased speed buff that heals for 15% of his HP, which is great for scaling. You can build him super high HP, which means that 50% of his HP heals is a lot more astronomical for like the lower HP nukers that may have gotten hit a little bit here and there. And then, of course, he has a revive that gives a shield whenever they get respawned. That's also based off of his HP. So a lot of synergy that builds off of his own capabilities, so it's not conditional to the each individual champion on your team. He could be built up super tanky, and the power that comes from him is going to be really, really good. In addition to that, too, he also decreased the damage received by allies with 50% or less by 10%. So nice little passive to keep the team going, as well as a 25% aura. Probably one of my more favorite ones, really underrated. Useful in Faction Wars. He actually was my main support that got me through the finish line there. Also a bang buffer, too, for Seer, getting her up and running. Got 2 right there, and then, of course, the A1 can give you a little bit more. And then, of course, Sin City, he's been phenomenal. It's a great option to kind of keep the ball going for the most part. So, Ultimate Gallic, super power crept. I hate to say it that way, but like super power crept. And I kind of feel like that's kind of been the case for a lot of the Orcs. They could probably use a little bit of a facelift, to be honest with you, especially with this new Unity champion being out, which we'll discuss in just a moment. Fury Slash, HP Burn, and of course, HP Burn. That's what this guy is. Now, he is conditional upon increased attack, which he does give himself, I believe, in some capacity. Let me see. I believe when it's awakened or ascended, his A2, I believe, places an increased attack on himself. I'm not totally sure here. Let me see. There's one particular ability I thought that he gives himself an increased attack, but ideally, you want to set him up with, there it is, right there. Decrease the target turn may place the increased attack buff for this champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. He is required and conditional upon having increased attack to set him up to do HP burns, but nevertheless, if you need an AoE HP burn, he could facilitate that, which is not bad. Now, mind you, I think the percentage chance to land is a little bit on the lower side, so it's not as great and it's not as ideal. However, something is better than nothing. There's definitely a lot more champions that have come out that are more HP burn based from an AoE standpoint, so he has definitely seen better days in terms of viability, but nevertheless, depending on where you're at in the count, could be very useful. Now, with that being said, we have Sandlash Survivor. Now, I haven't had the chance to explore her as much as I would like to, and there's been some particular stages in the past that have come up where she's like the linchpin for that team to really kind of get you the win or the victory, and her passive is like stinky for it. So, the moment someone gets below 50%, they get Ally Protect. It also places a block damage on Sandlash Survivor, giving them a lot of survivability, a lot of mitigation for the team. As well as decreasing the duration of enemy buffs and increasing the ally buffs. So if that happens, that gives them more of an opportunity to kind of stay in protected, and it just gets better and better as she goes along. So very, very strong champion. Didn't get these the chance to explore, but I have one, so I'm going to be maybe in the future if Sin City requires her, I'll build her up and have her ready. Now, Terror Beast, not too crazy, nothing to really write home about. He does have a reflect damage and, of course, a stun that's on one enemy. If it was AoE, maybe it might be a little more valuable, but kind of lackluster. I see this guy as more fodder food, to be honest with you. Trumbor. Now, he is another ally protector with increased defense, as well as, I believe, a bit of a buff stripper. No, a cleanser, excuse me, sorry. And the damage he increases by 5% for each debuff removed. So the more debuffed you are, the more this is going to pack a punch. And of course, he has Weaken and Leech on a single target hit, which is not too bad in case you need it. Maybe for like boss fights or something like that, where it's just one person to fight up, and you want to, get more damage and survive a little bit more. That's not too bad. Trumbor's okay. Vrask, a critical damage dealer HP nuker that heals for every crit he does by 10%. So every crit he does, 10% of that gets converted into a heal. And he basically has a very simplistic build. One of the only epics that has like 2 abilities, but also has a passive. He's a little bit dated, but nevertheless, I used him in Sin City as well as in Faction Wars. Particularly Faction Wars was pretty good. Sin City, he was leaving a little bit to be desired because his damage output, even with really good damage gear, wasn't all that to write home about. I think there was more standout champions that just did the job better, and his heal wasn't really giving too much value. Nevertheless, it's something to consider if you need to get some sustain into your team. Could be very useful. Nevertheless. And then, of course, we're going to end it off on Yelagurna. Pretty much just a damage dealer, I believe. Yeah, with block buffs on a single target. Block Actus for 2 turns. It's always going to crit, so you don't have to build crit for this ability to do its job. However, if you want to do it for the other ones, you're going to need some crit damage. She does do decrease attack AoE, which is nice. And then, of course, to revise one ally with 50% HP. Every single time she kills an enemy on a 2-turn cooldown, whenever she strikes somebody and cooks them, her passive kicks in, giving you a little bit of a revive. So a little bit of a bounce back mechanic from an offensive standpoint. Now, let's get into the meat of where this gets really, really spicy. So, I'm going to break down the champions we've already seen. Shaik, if you haven't already been participant in his fusion, I did a breakdown on him a long time ago, so we're not going to go too far into detail, but he's found his place in Hydra, which is great. It's awesome to see, especially with the fact that he has block buffs, taunts, and shield, and reflect damage, and, has a little bit of a aura that applies everywhere. Very, very solid champion. Artak, one of the people that I would say that supersedes Supreme Gallic. Papa Artak over here with the HP Burn Activator, as well as an HP Burner. Very, very tanky, very, very solid. I use him in my Ice Golem team hard. He's my boss killer, for lack of better words, in that team. You can look at that Tour de SoulSaint that I did a while back, and he's still used to this day for me. Very, very well built. Very, very solid approach, and he actually does a lot. He's useful in Spider. A lot of areas where you can see HP Burn being super useful, like Sand Devil, for example, is another spot. Very, very good. Very, very useful. Very nice. All right. Now, Nodgar, or Nogdar, excuse me, is kind of a little bit more niche. He did get a buff in the past, and it gave him some relevance in terms of being able to HP swap with people, as well as the constant revive. If you wanted to abuse or use a champion like Valken, I've seen some synergies with, similar to like how Valken and some of Kongar, he gives himself basically like a bounce back mechanic with his passive as long as there are 3 or more allies that are still alive, I believe, or if all allies are alive beside himself, he kind of bounce backs with 50% HP and some turn meter as well, which is kind of nice. It could be very useful if you want to push somebody or inject somebody back in the team, or abuse the fact that, you know, he has a immortal revive kind of, in a sense, mechanic that's conditional, but still nevertheless pretty interesting. Not super meta, nothing crazy, but it has some fun interaction if you want to look at it that way, so could be very useful in that regard. Now, I want to break this down. This is my first time seeing them in terms of reaction. I was going to watch some other videos and get some other perspectives and whatnot, but I was like, you know what, let me check this out since we have the Prism event, and we'll get down to it. So, Force, Legendary, HP, Champion for the Orcs, Matriarch Zarguna. Very, very cool design. I think it's kind of like the War Chief on the Lady War Chief, for lack of better words. I don't know how you want to call it. The War Maiden? No? Maybe? I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to go with that one. But design, aesthetic, she's got 2 skulls on her shoulders for pauldrons. Plenty of, like, bone weapons and like, basically adornments on herself. It's really, really cool looking. And she just looks like a boss, a menace to society. Now, let's see if her kit holds up. Her A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times, heals this champion by 5% of their max HP after each hit. So she heals 10% every single time she's healing. She's hitting with her A1. Each hit also has a 25% chance, bookable up to a 30-40% chance of placing a provoke debuff on the target for 1 turn. So an A1 that's very comparable to like maybe a Husk for a provoke option. Kind of making it kind of weird that I'm having to compare it to an Epic. The A2... Clan Mother, there we go, that's what we're going to call her. Clan Mother, decrease the duration of all ally debuffs by 1 turn, kind of like a pseudo cleanse. Places a continuous heal and a taunt and unkillable on herself. So continuous heal goes to everybody. Taunt and unkillable brings it to just herself. Now, automatically, when we start thinking about taunt and unkillable, these are very, very valuable in situations. If you're familiar, like the Wixwell comp in Hydra, basically, Shaik is kind of doing something very similar, so she could also facilitate something like that, depending on the cooldown and the rotation of things. I believe it's bookable down to a 4-turn cooldown, so you have to keep that in mind. And the taunt and unkillable is a 2-turn, so you have a 2-turn underlap that you need to find a way to find a way to kind of close that gap and give you the opportunity to do what you need to do. But nevertheless, pretty interesting mechanic. There could be something there. Attacks all enemies. Maternal Force. Places a shield buff on all allies equal to 25% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. Whenever a shield buff is placed by this champion, expires or is removed by damage, heals that ally by 50% of the max HP and places a 25% strengthen buff on them for 1 turn. So she shields, and then that shield is equal to her max HP. It's a 2-turn duration, but if it's removed, replaced, or expires, then they heal 50% of their max HP. So that's for each individual champion, I believe. And then it gives them a strength being a very, very strong buff. Not bad for a support unit. Pretty utility based, if you want to ask me. And then of course her refuge from pain is allies under shield buffs receive 10% less damage. Now the only one that I know that has some kind of incorporation with shields being super like mitigative in some capacity, I believe, is the Fatalis champion that we got, where if he's under shields, then he can't be crit. So add the crit reduction maybe with like the new War Mother, I guess we'll call her, could give you like a lot of mitigation powers. But nevertheless, I won't lie, shield effects in PvP are not very idealistic because of the fact that they're easy to counter. Think about Narcisse and champions that basically just ignore, which are becoming a little bit more in quantity nowadays. So a little bit of a concern there to see Matrix Zarguna in that capacity. However, she still could be very, very strong for a supporting unit in terms of like battle of attrition, like Hydra, for example, where her taunt and unkillable could be very valuable. She's automatically going to be valuable as a champion that could do what she needs to do. Phone calls over here out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? But they give you a little bit of like utility in terms of being viable as a provoke champion. She could be good in Hydra. I think at the very least okay in Hydra. Good to great is going to be dependent upon some other variables like composition and whatnot. But nevertheless, I think I see her more as a support utility champion in that regard. It's okay. It's okay. It's not crazy. It's not all that. She does have an aura that is 30%, not top of the line, but not too bad for a legendary. I believe there is some that are very slightly higher, 33, 35 maybe. But nevertheless, not bad. Not bad for an aura. All right. And then, of course, our headliner of this round, really, really cool looking. It's going to be another Force Legendary HP champion. This one looks phenomenal. I love the spear-like, or maybe it's a halberd, I think it's what they're called, with the shield that has like the adornment of skulls in there. It's really, really cool looking. I love his helmet. The helmet is what makes me super, super like, yo, that's a really nice touch. The banner that you get with all the Union champions looks really like in sync with him. And then of course you see the little aura at the bottom with the like claws. It looks like bone teeth sticking out of it. Very, very nice touch by the design department. As always, never fails. They don't miss. They don't miss. Let's just be honest. Let's see if the development team made the champion super valuable or not, though. Let's see how it feels. So, A1, Wild King Polearm. It's a polearm is what we're going to call it. Okay. Attacks one enemy, heals all allies with less than 50% HP back to 50% of their max HP. So, if you're under 50% HP, when he hits with his A1, you're now at 50% HP as long as you don't have, like, heal reduction effects. So, not bad at all. Attacks one ally. The damage dealt is equal to 50. This is a sacrificial ploy, by the way, the A2. Attacks one ally. He hits an ally. The damage dealt is equal to 50% of the target's current HP. Then places a shield buff on that ally for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the amount of HP that's missing. Also fills that ally's turn meter by an amount equal to the HP they are missing. Finally fills this champion's turn meter by the same amount. That is such an interesting mechanic, where you attack one enemy and you give 50% of their HP, like damage wise, and then the shield that's placed on that ally is equal to the amount of total HP that's missing from that ally. But then it fills that ally's turn meter by an amount equal to the amount of HP that they were missing. So if you were at 100%, you are now at 50%, but you gain a 50% shield and you also gain 50% turn meter. And then it also gives himself the same amount, which means he's getting into the fight even more. Now, is this good or bad? I feel like this is kind of bad depending on the circumstances. I see a lot of times this has to be done with certain synergies in mind. Maybe they're thinking about trying to make more comps around Nogdar a little bit more relevant. So, like, no matter what, as long as someone is alive and he gets that injection, he could do a lot of mechanical work. Also giving him a lot of opportunities to be able to get in mechanical work-wise. But I don't see how hitting your own allies for half of their health makes a lot of great sense, because that is what they kill threshold. I mean, think about Rhodos. If he's not under 50%, that's grounds to kill him. You know, his passive will trigger, but, you know, he can't be hit for more than half of his health, which means that the other half is already gone. I mean, that's pretty much it. He still dies, right? So it doesn't matter if the passive exists. Or think about champions that have high HP pools that you want to benefit off of, or that they scale off of their HP in some capacity. Hitting them may not be the best value to lose that. So I find that questionable, but let's see the rest of the kit to see if there's any synergies there. I'm not really feeling it so far. Cackle of Blades, though. It's a attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance to provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, so just guaranteed straight up. Also places a 25% strike debuff on all allies for 2 turns, and the damage is scaled off of HP just like the rest of his kit. Interesting. So a guaranteed provoke as long as you meet the accuracy requirements that supersede the enemy's resistance. And then he also has a strengthen. This guy's big on strengthen, it seems like, or at least both him and the War Mother. Now, we don't see anything, and I saw some inklings around this. This is something that's scheduled to get fixed. But Warlord skill across the board for this, I don't know exactly what the synergy is going to be here, and I feel like they should have maybe delayed releasing this champion if they didn't know what was going on with the skill name quantifiers or something around those lines. I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully we'll get some information regarding that in the near future, as well as the passive too as well. Allies with 50% or less HP deal 30% more damage. That's not too bad. Now, if you're not someone that scales off of HP or current HP, then maybe you could get some big value out of this, and maybe you could live on that line of like, I will always have 50% HP, but because of that, I will always have 30% more damage. And there may be some masteries that you can get even more value out of it. Think, let me see if I can think of it right off the rip. I believe right here, Grim Resolve, as long as you're with 50% or less HP. There could be some synergy there that you can get some value out of your picks or your composition designs if you're going to be living on that 50% or less line as a whole. I love the tiger legs, by the way. Like, you can see the little war ink, for lack of better words. It's across his entire body, which is really, really nice little play. Now, really, this is kind of a little bit unfortunate to not be able to see exactly what the ally synergies are going to have in terms of the Orc tribe, and that's the most important part of it. I feel like that has been really indicative of whether or not a Unity champion is really strong or not. Think about Teox and his synergies with being immune to the sheep as for your whole team, or with, like, you know, basically some synergies that exist because you have the same faction as a team. We're not able to see those at the moment, which is kind of a little disheartening. So a little bit of a taboo on the player side there. We need to see some information regarding what's going on in this kit to really justify going for him. This might be a little bit more of a deterrent, because even if they don't know, then well, shoot, we're in trouble. Now, with that being said, increase ally defense in all battles by 33%, and then of course for all orcs, you'll get another 25% HP in addition to that. So very tanky, very machismo. Let me go to the index to see his maxed out stats. I believe we can maybe get a little bit more there. I went to Ashnard. I want to see Aragaz. There we go. At the higher inside, he's at 22,000 HP. That's not too bad for HP based champions. 1,200 defense, a little bit on the mediocre side. Not too crazy, not too high. 100 base speed. Kind of norm, maybe a little bit on the lower side actually nowadays, considering that a lot of champions have been like 105 or higher, give or take or two. You know what I mean? It's been pretty close. That's nothing crazy to stand out, but nothing bad either. Editor SoulSaint here. I just got to cut in real quick and just let you guys see the rest of the kit here in terms of what's currently active and available for information. We did check out the forums, and they do have an update on the actual particular faction Unity stuff, so I wanted to break that down in this video and kind of give you guys a little bit of a follow-up so that, you know, we'll just cut this in, all right? So just bear with me, all right? So the A3 and the passive ability for the Unity champion for the Orcs has some Orc synergies. So basically the A3, which has that AoE provoke, that's 100% with the strengthen at the end of it. Everybody that is a part of that faction is immune to block active skills, debuffs, and cooldown increasing effects, so this is really good for anti-lockout in a sense. Instantly activates the skill whenever an ally HP drops below 50%. Instant activations do not place this skill on cooldown, which is also pretty cool too. It is a 3-turn cooldown with fully booked, by the way. And then of course, with all three being in there, provokes placed by this champion or this skill in particular will never be resisted, which is really good for high resistance champions. So this seems to be like good counter effects for lockout champions, like maybe high resistance like Crixia, for example. Maybe even a Galathier could be resistant to this, but the problem is that provoke is a debuff that can be polyed. Pinpoint could maybe solve that solution, but is that something you want to build for this champion? Don't know. Underdogs, his passive, which is when they deal more damage. If they have, with one extra orc, he has allies with 50% or less HP receive 30% less damage too, so even more mitigation. And then whenever there's two allies that are orcs, whenever the ally or enemy dies, increases the HP, defense, and speed of all allies by 5%, scaling up to a total of 25%. Not too bad. 5% each round for an enemy dying, so by the time 5 people die, whether it's allies or enemies, you got 25%. And then, of course, when there's all 4 of you guys that are going to be orcs, whenever an ally kills an enemy, grants that ally an instant turn. Occurs once per round. So it's only going to be a one-time effect for PvP. Is that enough? I still don't think so too much, but let's get back to the rest of the video. You guys enjoy. He's not super slow by any stretch of the means. Is this Summon Prism event worth it? Well, because we couldn't see the champion... the champion synergies with Aragaz, Wild King, it's kind of hard to say yes or no. I think if you're lacking AoE HP burns and you want to go for a chance at Artak, I think Artak is a fantastic champion to go for. Shaik, if you missed a fusion or if you want to fill up your faction guards, could be another great example. And I also want to just preface this and say this from like a faction guardian standpoint. If you're trying to get more stats out of your faction guardians, then this is obviously a great opportunity to fill up the Orc faction as a whole. Believe it or not, I feel like the epics are a little bit more noteworthy in that regard. I count at least 3 right off the rap, like right there. Zargala, Duck, and Takeover automatically make it a yes. Maybe even Sandwich Survivor, depending on where you're at in your account. They're all very solid. And if you're early or mid to like maybe progressing accounts and you're trying to make your way in the game, those champions will definitely help out. Artak being the big standout here, it kind of is a little. And I'm just gonna preface this to say this now. I feel like this champion pool for Prism event was very selfish. Or very greedy in a sense, maybe it might be the better way to say it. And this is, I hate to say this is a little bit of a knock. I feel like if you really want to make some incentivizing opportunities for people to go in on this, maybe introduce Seer into the epic pool. She's a Void epic, and I know that maybe they're trying to stray away from doing too many Void-related summoning Prism events type deals. But I feel like this one, because of how lackluster the overall summoning pool is for the Orcs kind of seem like they're a little dry in terms of desirability. Maybe you throw in a couple. Like if they threw in a Warlord, that would have been a big deal. That would have been a big seller. Supreme Gallic. Let's see who else would have been pretty enticing. I do think the Artec was a good grab. I think maybe Shaik was a good grab. The Seer would have been a good one. Just to name a few that would have given them the opportunity to maybe capitalize off of giving people incentive for more desirable champions in this pool. So I do think that they dropped the ball of opportunity there. I think that it could have been a great opportunity to maybe give people a chance to get those champions, because at the end of the day, you still have a 6% chance to get a legendary or a 94% chance to get an epic, and, you know, RNG will do what RNG does, gives you whatever it wants to, right? So I feel like that could be a little bit of a drop. As of right now, I'm not very, very enthusiastic about it. Unfortunately, I had leftover prisms from the previous set of events, and I think there is currently a tournament going on the Spider side for Barbarian-focused related faction events that you can get 35 more. So I'll probably end up acquiring that and end up getting 2 Fragment Prism event summons. And if I do, then we'll probably go from there. Since it's going to pull automatically for you for this video, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull it. Let's get a good luck page and see if we get something of a beggar. I would be surprised if we got a yellow, and we didn't. We did get duck, though, so I'm not going to complain there. I wonder, I have one that's kind of semi-built at the moment, and I think what I might try to do here is maybe empower. Let's see if he's available for empowerment. I think I might already have one fully decked out. Let's see. I think I have my main one is already +4. Yep, look at that right there. He's already +4 at the moment, so I don't think we need to worry about too much on his front. Actually, he's pretty much ready to go. Yeah, he's ready to go. I just need to finish his masteries out and then build him out and whatnot. And I think we're just chilling at that point. Now, with that being said, you guys gotta let me know. Are you guys interested in the summoning pool event? I won't lie, I'm not. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably around a 4 or 5. Maybe, and I wouldn't mind more Artex. I mean, obviously, my Faction Guardians isn't finished for Orcs, but I don't use Orcs, like, astronomically that much to a point where it's that big of a difference. Obviously, if I wanted to make a more luxurious build, not mandatory at this point, for Artec to do what he has to do with the accuracy resistance check at the Faction Guardians number 3, and, of course, extra defense and speed, you know, I could get maybe some value out of that. Yeah, sure. But it's not mandatory. I already got him doing what he needs to do from a progressive count standpoint, so I don't really need to add more to something that's already been complete for what reason, you know? Now, I think for those that may be incorporating and using champions like Warlord, if you want to get more speed for competitive side aspects, this is definitely up your alley. Same thing with the accuracy check there. So there's going to be some value in that regard, but I think for the most part, this might be a little bit of a swing and miss for me. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Anyways, with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you guys are interested in this pool, if you're going to pool, or if this is like super incentivizing for you. If maybe I'm missing something from the Matriarch as well as the Wild King. If there is something you guys think I maybe am missing from like a synergy standpoint, then let me know. I'm all ears. And as always remember, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and always remember, stay ascended.
Got the